Good morning, everybody. I'm here at the Memorial Park Woods again, here to tell you a little bit more about nature journaling, here to give you your next nature journaling task and kind of walk you through that. So this week's focus is going to be on something called a field guide. Your nature journal entry this week will be a field guide. You're going to be basically becoming the expert on a given set of subjects, whether that's leaves, or rocks, or clouds, or trees, and coming up with a guide to basically tell them apart from each other. Now, I'm going to show you one example of a field guide. This is Sibley's Guide to Trees. It is a guide that is all about trees. I think this one's totally based in North America. But if we look through it, we can see some of the major features of it. So, for example, here, it's showing us what a northern red oak tree looks like. It gives us a little picture of the bark. It gives us a little picture of the leaves and their shape. It gives us some clues in identifying the acorns and the twigs. And it helps us contrast that with other oak trees that we might find in the area, such as a white oak. So red oaks and white oaks are both fairly common, especially in these woods here. You can kind of see, hopefully, that these oak leaves are a little bit rounder, a little bit less pointy. Their acorns are a little bit more squat. So it helps us identify some of the differences between these different organisms. So when you are making your field guides, you're going to be trying to identify differences between the different subjects that you choose. So my first task is going to be to try and find what I want the subject of my field guide to be. So I'm going to go take a look around the woods and see what I can find. Alright, after a little bit of searching around, I think I found what I want my field guide to be about. Like I said, this can really be anything that you choose, that you can find like 3 to 5 different things that would help you fill out your field guide. So after a little bit of looking around, I decided to do my field guide on animal signs. Signs that animals have been here, or that they've been doing something, or that they've been eating something. So my field guide is going to be a field guide to animal signs in the forest. So my first animal sign is right here behind me, and some of you that go hunting might notice what this is. But what I'm looking at right here is a buck rub. So when we start getting into the fall season here, and the deer start to mark their territory, male deer will rub their antlers up and down on a tree to mark that territory as their own. So that's going to be my first entry in my field guide, is this buck rub. So what I'm going to do is sketch on my notebook a little bit, sketch what I see, label it, describe it as much as I can, to capture as much detail as possible. So remember, the goal of our nature journal isn't to make a pretty picture, though sometimes it does. Our goal is to capture as much information as possible. So I'm going to get out my notebook and get to work on that. Alright, so as I start to capture and record what I've found so far, I thought it might be useful to just show briefly how I set up my page. It's pretty straightforward. All I did was put at the top field guide to forest animal signs. I put today's date, and I lightly divided my page into 4 sections. My hope is that I can find 4 different things. If I find 3, that's okay. But this lets me figure out how much space I can want to devote to each thing. You don't have to divide it like that. If you just want to draw things where they appear on your page, that's totally fine. But it might help to start with a little bit of a plan on what you find. So with that, I'm going to start sketching and illustrating what I find, and start adding some information in there. And when I'm done, I'll show you what I came up with. Alright, so what I've got so far is pretty straightforward. It's just a little illustration of the shredded bark that you can kind of see there. And just put a little bit of description in there that it's 3 feet high about. It gives you an idea of the scale of it. But I think what might be useful on this is to add just a little bit of color, just to kind of differentiate the different layers of bark that are peeled off. So I brought my colored pencils. I'm going to do a little bit of coloring on here just to kind of capture a little bit more information. Alright, so what I've got here is the outer layers of bark, the parts that have been kind of peeled back. I just wanted to show that they're mostly grayish brownish. They're a lot darker than the inside, and then I'm going to do the inside next. So this I'm going to choose a little bit of yellow, a little bit of brown to maybe capture that's a little bit lighter in color than the others. Right, and that's what I came up with. As you can see, I just wanted to differentiate between those two layers of bark again, just so you could really see kind of how it's peeling back a little bit. What I might do now is just add a little bit of more written detail in there. So I noticed that this tree is actually dead. I don't know if you guys can, here you go, you can kind of see the dead leaves on it. So likely this didn't happen this year. This is probably something that happened probably last fall if I had to guess. So I might just write that the tree is dead. And that it might have happened last year. And then just a few other details about it. Just how shredded it is. So I might write on there very shredded. Just to really capture maybe what I wasn't able to get with the illustration. And then I might just measure just a little bit here. So the buck rub itself is about that wide, so maybe about an inch, inch and a half wide. Alright, and that's it. That's my first little entry in here. I'm going to go see what else I can find. Alright, the next thing I found is a little bit smaller in scale than the buck rub, and it is, I don't know if you can see it right around here, but it's basically a squirrel's leftovers. So a squirrel was snacking here earlier. You can see this is a little husk of an acorn. There's some, I think, pine cone leftovers right here. So this is just a spot where a squirrel basically had a little bit of a snack. So in this area, probably what I want to capture is just what the squirrel was eating. So I might want to draw some of these little acorn husks and some of these pine cone leftovers right here, and maybe just the scale of it. You can see this really isn't that big. It's just this part of the tree right here, and it's just a couple inches across in each dimension. Jeez, with my camera. So that's kind of what I want to get, and maybe just I want to illustrate that it's on a dead log. So I'm just going to do a little bit of illustration of that, and then I'll show you guys kind of what I came up with. Now I'm just going to be adding a little bit of color just to differentiate some of the stuff here. It doesn't all have to be colored in, but maybe just some of the big pieces right here, like the acorn husks. So here's what I have come up with for my second part right here. Is just a pretty basic illustration of these squirrel leftovers right here. I kind of labeled what I thought were the acorn husks. I labeled what I thought were the pine cone scales, and I don't really know what the leftovers of these nuts right here are. So I just kind of wrote that I'm not sure, but there's something. And it's more information that I can use. So I'm going to see if I can maybe find one more animal sign, and then we'll call it good. I found my last animal sign, and it's in this dead tree we walk past quite often when we come out here. And what I found is quite a big woodpecker hole in this dead tree, surrounded by smaller woodpecker holes. I know the bigger woodpecker hole is a pileated woodpecker. They're the ones that make those pretty large-scale openings in the trees. I think the smaller ones might be a yellow-bellied sapsucker, but I'm not sure. But I do want to just make sure I capture all of this in my field guide. It's pretty high up. You can kind of see, like it's kind of shoulder height with me. So I'm not going to be able to hold the computer and also like draw at the same time. So I'm just going to show you what my finished product is for this one. At this point, you guys kind of have an idea of what the process is. I just want to show you what I came up with. So here's what I came up with for my last animal sign, my woodpecker holes right here. As you can see, it took up a little bit more space than I originally planned for it, and that's totally okay. What I really wanted to show was the big woodpecker hole that I thought was a pileated woodpecker, and the little ones around it that I thought might be a sapsucker. The other interesting thing I kind of wanted to show is this yellowish spot here is parts of the tree where the bark has been stripped away. I can kind of capture on the camera there. You can kind of see there's this lighter colored area of the tree where the bark has been stripped away. I don't know if that's at all related to the woodpecker signs that we're seeing right here, but I thought it'd at least be interesting to capture it. If you notice, I also just did a quick little measurement of how wide the woodpecker cavity was and how deep it was, just to add that little more information in there. So what I'm going to do, I found three things for my field guide. I think I'll call it good there, and that's okay. I'm hoping you guys find 3 to 5 things somewhere in there. I'm going to take this back to the classroom, add a few more finishing touches to it, and then show you all what I came up with for my final product on this. So hang out for a little bit and we'll take a look at those. And then good luck with you guys on your own field guides. I look forward to seeing what you come up with.